reading comes from John chapter 12, verses 1 to 8. 6 days before the Passover, Jesus came to Bethany, to the home of Lazarus, whom he had raised from the dead. There they gave a dinner for him. Martha served, and Lazarus was one of those at table with him. Mary took a pound of costly perfume made of pure nard, and anointed Jesus' feet, and wiped them with her hair. The house was filled with the fragrance of the perfume. But Judas Iscariot, one of the disciples, the one who was about to betray him, said, "Why was this perfume not sold for 300 denarii, and the money given to the poor?" He said this not because he cared about the poor, but because he was a thief and kept the common purse, and used to take what was put into it. Jesus said, "Leave her alone. She bought it so that she might keep it for the day of my burial. You always have the poor with you, but you do not always have me."
Hello and welcome to our final Keep Praying Lent video reflection. Our theme for this series has been Changed Lives, Generously Changing Lives, and we've been considering each week a Bible story about somebody whose life was changed by an encounter with God and who in the process learnt something new about generosity, whether receiving the generosity of God or of other people, or giving generously themselves. You may remember right back at the start of Lent we started with Zacchaeus, whose penitent transformation led to him giving away his wealth. And then we thought about the people of God settling in the promised land, understanding that the gracious provision of God to them would enable them to provide for the poor in their land. We considered two widows, one widow who, known perhaps and seen by Jesus, knowing herself loved, trusting God, was able to give out of her poverty, and another widow who needed the generosity of her local community to access the miraculous provision that God had for her. We considered the Good Samaritan, a man who, moved by justice, was prepared to reach outside of his own local community, over and above the prejudices of that local community, to help somebody who was different, to help someone who even perhaps should have been his enemy. And we considered King David, altered by grief, longing to reach out and show generosity to his best friend's family, and in so doing welcoming somebody who was on the edge of things, someone who was on the margin of society, into a place of family. Changed lives, experiencing generosity, giving generosity, and today's story is no exception. The story Primrose has just read for us is about a woman who poured out a bottle of perfume. But this was no ordinary bottle of perfume. This was no trinket from duty free at the airport. This was a life savings. This was probably the family heirloom, the treasure that would be the bulwark against poverty for generations to come. And yet she gave it away. She poured it out, quite literally. A dramatic, extravagant act, and it makes you wonder what kind of dramatic change had happened in her through her encounter with Jesus. I grew up in a Christian family, and while I've always been deeply aware of the transformative work of the Spirit in my life, I don't think I've ever experienced anything so dramatic that it's made me want to do anything quite that extravagant. Perhaps that's still to come for me. But this woman had experienced something. She had been radically changed. And she was prepared to show her generosity to Jesus in a public, extravagant, some might say wild, profligate act of giving. As we journey through Holy Week and through Easter, we are reminded again that all of our generosity has its source in the self-giving of Jesus Christ. Anyone can be generous, anyone can give, anyone can choose to be kind, to meet need. Anybody can do that. But perhaps what matters, perhaps what I take from this story, is the engine of that generosity, the energy of that generosity. Where does that generosity come from? Sure, we humans can do good things. But deep, lasting, extravagant generosity can only, I think, find its source in a relationship with one who has given so utterly and so completely to us. As we journey again through the Easter story, may we know afresh how complete, how absolute, how radical, how dramatic was that act of generosity towards us that caused Jesus to lay down his very life. And may we find ourselves overflowing with an energised, joyful generosity that comes from receiving that incredible gift. May you have a truly blessed Easter.
Jesus, we dare to offer you the one gift we have, offering it with lavish abandon. We come in our vulnerability. We come in openness of heart. We come with our gift, cupped in our two hands. We come because we dare to walk with you, because we want to journey with you, to watch, to weep, to wait, and to hope with you. We have failed so often. Life has hurt and broken us. We kneel at your feet. Jesus, dip us into the mystery of turning to find you. In the cool of the morning, on the first day of the week, we want to hear you call our name. Transform our understanding so that we, your fragile earthen vessels, can bear the beauty of the breaking and hold in our brokenness the gift of life, life in all its fullness.
Jesus, you gave yourself completely for love of the Father and for love of the whole of creation. Forgive us when indifference dulls our compassion, when cynicism quenches our kindness, when selfishness stifles our care. Kindle in us that kind of love which can't help but give the best we have to you and to one another. Amen.
Jesus, forgive us when our greed leaves other people poorer. As we grow in our friendship with you, teach us what it means to be generous and help us build the kind of world where everyone has enough.